Nigerian journalists have been tasked to adopt a fair and balanced approach towards reporting stories. The executive director of the Kukah Centre, Rev Father Atta Barkindo, stated this in Abuja at a dialogue organized by the Global Right to assess the role of citizens in reclaiming the shrinking media space. Also speaking at the event, the executive director, Foundation for Investigative Journalists Fisayo Soyombo, urged journalists and media practitioners to put in hard work to ensure they published only factual stories without bias. He says journalists must be resolute in delivering on their responsibility to the public in spite of government brutality or opposition.
Lots of journalists who carry out serious investigations are harassed, they are tortured, arrested, some are locked up in prison. Sometimes elements within the government pay so much money to suppress the truth, so that truth does not come out. There are all kinds of censors that are being carried out, sometimes even threats to either close down media houses, to threaten journalists not to report certain news. And I think that these are the challenges. But then the responsibility of the citizens does not only lie with the citizens, it also lies with the journalists. The first thing the journalists must do is to educate citizens, to know their rights, to understand, have access to information. And then citizens should have the courage, the passion to equally report on what is happening around the country, and to be able to take decisions with courage that can contribute to the development of Nigeria. They shouldn't focus on personal attacks, they shouldn't focus on insults, they shouldn't form some bit of fanaticism where they tie their loyalty to a particular candidate, even whether that candidate has integrity or not. I think we have to focus on issues that are very fundamental to Nigerians. Job creation, provision of jobs, reopening of universities, provision of companies and industries, but most importantly, security, so that Nigerians can go out and do exactly what they want to do. So security of their lives and property are important. So it should be issue-based campaign, not personal attacks. And these campaigns should be carried out with a bit of respect, decency and civility, while we avoid personal attacks. And everything should be issue-based rather than dictated by sentiments and by emotions. We should make our arguments and our support based on facts and evidence, and not sentiments or some primordial attachment to sectional claims or regional claims. Everything should be based on facts and evidence.
Journalists have to leave no loophole in the work that they do. They have to do the kind of work that holes can be picked in. I think that's the first thing. If someone is trying to come after you, government is trying to harass you, security agents are trying to intimidate you, but you are sure that the work you've done is impeccable, is without bias, has no loophole, the fact checks solid, that's the first thing. When people have a case against you, but even they know in their mind that you've done nothing wrong, it's easier to get out of it. I think also it's important for journalists to recognize that this season is very important for the people, for the country. Whoever wins the election is likely going to get another 4 years. So it's like an 8-year decision. And journalists, more than ever before, have to work for the people rather than their pockets. Because it's a season when journalists make the most money during election season. Politicians are most willing to spend during electioneering. And it is important for journalists to work for the people, for their conscience, even in the face of, bribery, financial inducement. I think that's really critical. Journalists who want to do critical work have to be ready for some ruffling by the government. You are not going to hold government to account and not be prepared to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, 1 week in detention. You have to be ready for it. It's the job that you do, and it has consequences. Because the fact is, the powerful, the people holding this country by the jugular, they enjoy the status quo. They like it. They want it to continue forever. The people profiting illegally from the rise from the rise in the value of the dollar would not even want any policy that brings it down. So people who feed on the penury of the people, who feel on the illiteracy of the people, to expand their political base, to build their political futures, to steal public funds don't like it when someone questions them. So if you question them and then you don't want to spend 1, 2, 3 days in police cell, in prison, then you probably are not ready for it.
Many journalists in Nigeria, Nigerian journalists and of course journalists across the world have had to sacrifice their very freedom and even some of them their family life just to do their job. And so we thought it's time for us to come together as citizens and as people, as Nigerians, to say how do we support these people to keep the media space protected from the constant regression we are having in our country. There has been never a time like the way we have it in Nigeria presently, where the civic space and of course which include the media space is constantly being shrunk, and then the regression is just accelerating as fast as we want to imagine. And so we thought it's the time for us to come back and sit down, get citizens together to sit down with the media, with the journalists, and say, how can we as citizens support you in the work that you do, and so you don't bear the burden all by yourself? What role can the citizens play in protecting the media space from shrinking and for regression? And so one of the outcomes we're expecting from this meeting is to see that at the end of it all, the members of the civil societies that are here and of course the other citizens that are here should be able to commit to working to protect the media space from further shrinking. And so we are hoping that as well to see how the media themselves can amplify the voice of the citizens in the effort to collectively protect the shrinking media space.